Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back. 8:36 a.m. News and views right here on Salam Media. Next, we have Bilal Kathrada. He is an award-winning app developer and founder of IT Varsity. We're going to be talking about Turkey, but first up, I do want to hear a little more about IT Varsity. Assalamu alaikum to you, brother Bilal Kathrada. Welcome to the program. Nice to have you on the show this morning.
Walaikum salam, Julian. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure. Yeah. So IT Varsity is the institute that I started around about 2009, early 2010. And I started IT Varsity to address South Africa's skills shortage in the IT space. I mean, we are facing a very unique scenario in South Africa where there's a massive need for skilled IT people, but at the same time, there's huge unemployment. And the reason I found, and this is from my own experience, is that our educational institutes aren't adequately preparing people for the world of IT, for what is required. So I am a software engineer by profession, and if I had to go through a university to study software engineering, I would come out with maybe 10% of the skills that I needed. So I started IT Varsity more as a finishing school, to get people with degrees to come and get the requisite skills to go into industry. But then it grew to become a fully fledged institute. We are accredited by the MICT and South African Qualifications Authority. So we're taking even school leavers now. And the whole idea is to accelerate people from zero knowledge to earning an income in the IT space, whether it's through software development, web design, e-commerce, you name it. So anybody and everybody can start and take advantage of the fourth industrial revolution and everything it provides within a year. Recently, we've begun to focus a lot on the gig economy, where people, young people in various countries are serving businesses in other countries just with a laptop or a phone and an internet connection. Bangladesh, for example, has 400,000 freelancers, IT freelancers, and that's huge. And one of IT Varsity's vision is to establish an IT freelance community in South Africa, servicing countries all over the world, which is really great because you don't have to leave home, you don't have to leave your country. You can work from home. You can do your basic your work from home, and you deliver the work fully online, and you get paid in dollars. So it's a very conducive working environment for people, and we there's a very big push to get women into that industry. So I would say about 60% of our students are female, and I'm really proud of that also. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's IT Varsity.
Alhamdulillah. Sounds very interesting. And we do know that for the past few years, we have been talking, pushing children and young people into the IT space because of the fourth industrial revolution. We also know that that has brought up questions around what about unskilled labor in the country? What about jobs? We know we're sitting at a very high unemployment rate in our country. I think it's possibly by now in the region of between the 30 and 40% already. You seem to have the answer, and that is obviously, skilling yourself up in this space. We know of lots of young people in our country offering English classes to people all around the world, China, Korea, and all of those places. And they sit in the comfort of their homes in South Africa, and they are earning a living, which is great. But then it takes us to the all important question, and that is, are our children being geared up enough or prepared enough in at primary level, primary education level, to then gradually or seamlessly enter into the space of IT development, or any area of IT?
So short answer, absolutely not. We are very, very old-fashioned in our education. I mean, go into a typical primary school, and I'm not talking about the rare exceptions, right? There are exceptions where technology is being taught at schools, but you go to a typical government primary school, and there's no no semblance of technology education. But what does persist from the 1970s and 80s is this traditional mentality of a linear progression of careers, where people think that my child is going to go to primary school and then secondary school and university and get a job, and and work in that job till they retire. It's not like that anymore. It hasn't been like that for the past 2 decades, but South Africans have been slow to wake up from that reality, that wake up to the reality that career progression is no longer linear. I mean, every 6 years people change careers. That's the reality today. And the other realities are that by 2030, half of today's jobs are not going to exist any longer. So jobs are changing, the world is changing, careers are changing, and we need to be adaptable. And the best way to do that is to have a firm grasp on technology. And that's why my advice to anybody is that before you get into your career of choice, make sure you have a firm grasp of technology, of the fourth industrial revolution and what it entails. Because every career you can possibly imagine is now being taken over by technology. That's how pervasive technology has become. To give you an example, I met a youngster in Turkey in my trip that I returned from this weekend, who is doing his PhD. Now listen to this. This is mind-boggling. He's doing his PhD in artificial intelligence in
Oh,
the agricultural space.
wow.
Now think about that. Artificial intelligence in agriculture. I mean, we're still grappling to come to terms with basic technology in agriculture. But in Turkey, they have already evolved to AI, using AI to enhance agricultural production, and that's phenomenal. So you name it, whether it's agriculture or medicine or accounts, management, business, you name it, technology has pervaded those careers. So my advice to any young person is spend a year learning technology, spend a year getting a grasp of technology, and then go into your career of choice, because that will equip you to be a leader in your space. People ask me, will technology replace people in the future? I say no. But this is what's going to happen. People with technology skills will replace people without technology skills. That's as
Absolutely.
simple as it gets.
Absolutely. Okay, so I do want to hone in on Turkey in a minute or two, but let's just look at one or two very quick issues that are important. The astronomical data costs in South Africa, really, that needs to be addressed because young people can't forge ahead without that being addressed. Is government working on a plan to address that issue? And then we also have issues around when is the right time to start your child on this path of the fourth industrial revolution. People are confused. They don't know where and how to get started, which is a reputable institution to go to. At what age do I introduce my child to coding, to technology, etc., etc.? Can you give us a quick overview on that? And also, very quickly, IT Varsity, that's your institution. Is it purely online, or do you have person to person in class teaching and training as well?
So to answer your first question, how young should people start? I think it's not a matter of choice any longer. It's not a question. I mean, take any typical family that has a phone or a tablet PC, and you'll find these children 2 years old that are already able to use those and very fluently.
True.
So it's not a choice. And I believe that when it comes to parenting, and I've always believed this in my own family, is that rather than be subtractive, we need to be additive. In a sense that rather than telling children what not to do, we should give them options on what to do that is useful and beneficial. So, for example, if children are spending inordinate amount of time on devices playing video games or just scrolling through YouTube or watching memes, rather give them an alternative and say, why don't you do this, which is going to be more beneficial for you. And there are lots of fun activities that children can do that are also educational. And not to self promote, but I also own a company called Xander Educational Apps, which creates apps for children both for iOS and Android that are educational, but are also video games. They are educational video games that help enhance children's mathematical abilities and language abilities also. That's Xander educational apps. And later this year, I think in September, we are launching or relaunching our brand called CompuKids, which is almost a baby IT varsity. It's where we teach computer science skills to children at primary school level from grade 4 all the way to grade 9. So they learn everything from uh, coding to game development to web design to graphic design. So everything relating to the fourth industrial revolution. Because as much as I am a coder myself, and coding is an important skill to learn, it is not the only skill to learn for the fourth industrial revolution. There are lots of associated skills that people can learn and apply into their careers. So we're launching this brand in September, and that's going to basically for us that's our answer to this gap at school level. I know government has been talking about introducing coding for the past, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, but it hasn't happened yet. And it's the same with your comment about the internet access. I think it needs to be driven by the private sector. Um, Government is still figuring themselves out, but we in the private sector need to step in. And there has been a lot of good news in terms of connectivity. For example, I mean, most recently, I think last week, Google's undersea cable reached South Africa, and that's going to decrease the price of connectivity in this country. So in all aspects, I think we should look to the private sector, and there's a lot of potential there. So there's that. And then your question about IT Varsity, yes, IT Varsity is fully online. We don't have any face-to-face campuses, simply because there's that's the nature of learning today. The luxury of leaving home or leaving your office to go and learn at a university is no longer there, and it's no longer necessary, because with online learning, you have the ability to learn any skill you want, to shift to any career you want from the comfort of your home or your business or your office. And that's what's great about it. And in South Africa, education has been a particularly challenging space because I mean, consider a learner who is in one of the rural areas out of between Durban and Pietermaritzburg. For her to leave home to study at a university in Durban or Pietermaritzburg was impossible, because she'd have to leave home. She'd have to not just pay university fees, but also accommodation. And very possibly she was the only breadwinner in her home. And, so that all of those things sort of worked against her. But now with online education, she can graduate, and we've got so many graduates. I mean, dozens and dozens of graduates from some of the most deep rural areas of South Africa, and alhamdulillah, they are now going out into the gig economy, and they're starting to do work in the gig economy. And it's these are people who never stood a chance for any sort of education at all, so they would have ended up
Mashallah.
doing jobs, the most menial mundane jobs. And alhamdulillah, now they got these opportunities.
Mashallah. Let's change gear now and we talk about Turkish insights. I know that you're having a live webinar tomorrow evening, and we do know here in South Africa that
Tomorrow
Turkey,
morning.
is it tomorrow morning? Okay.
Tomorrow morning at
Turkey,
11.
inshallah. We'll give out those details just now. Uh,
Uh,
Turkey is the big destination that South Africans are going to in their droves. I mean, they're going on holiday, and I guess they're also looking at business opportunities. And I've also just recently read a report that Russians are buying up lots of property in Turkey, either as the second residence or also possibly with the view to looking for citizenship. And that's where your webinar is playing a huge role in informing us as a South African public as to Turkey being one of the top 10 global economies. Talk to us about it without taking away too much from your webinar. We need to then obviously tune into the webinar tomorrow. But this is really exciting. Exciting not only for Turkey and Turkey's economy, but for us as South Africans thinking of possibly expanding, maybe business opportunities, or possibly even emigrating to Turkey. Your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I first visited Turkey in 2019. I went up for an educational conference there. It was a number of Muslim schools that went up. I'm not even associated with any Muslim school, but I have lots of colleagues from my time teaching at a Muslim school. And I saw it as an opportunity to get some insights into the educational sector in Turkey. And I was so impressed that I made a firm commitment that I will come back. And I was going to go back in about 2 years since then, but unfortunately COVID happened. But alhamdulillah, I got this opportunity to go again a month ago. Actually, it was a very last minute thing because one of my colleagues that I met at the last time was getting married, and she invited me to her wedding. And I says, well, this is an opportunity I can't miss because it's a very unique way to enjoy Turkish culture. Because I mean, what do we do as South Africans when we do go to Turkey? I mean, we get to see all the touristy parts. We go to Istanbul, the old city, and Cappadocia, and but we're missing a very sliver of what Turkey has to offer. We're missing out the reality of Turkey. So this colleague invited me, and we had 2 weeks to prepare. And I says, you know what, this is something I want to experience, and I want my children to experience. So in 2 weeks' time, we prepared, and we were off to Turkey. The wedding was in Mersin, which is a Mediterranean city in the south of Turkey. So we landed in Istanbul and immediately headed off straight to Mersin. It was probably the most phenomenal experience that I've ever had, to see what a typical wedding is. And we got to meet so many people. We got to mingle with the population. The language was a bit of a barrier, but my son, my second son, he's been learning Turkish for quite some time now. He's fascinated with the culture, so we got along, and there were lots of people um, who spoke English. So we went to Mersin, and then from there we went to Konya, which is not just the resting place of
Rumi.
Maulana Rumi. Yeah,
Yes,
but there's a lot more to Konya than Rumi that
absolutely.
most people don't realize, and that is Turkey's biggest air force base is there. It's actually a
Wow.
NATO air force base. Some of the jet and drone production facilities are in Konya. From Konya, we went to Antalya, which, although I didn't really like Antalya, parts of it, but it was an eye opener, and it's where what you mentioned about Antalya was like Russia for us because everywhere we turned, there were people speaking Russian, and
So,
there's a
can I,
huge,
Bilal, can I just
yeah,
interrupt you here? We do
go.
have an issue with time, so we need to rush it up. Uh, the fact that Russians are buying up property in Turkey, we've been told that you can enjoy a wonderful holiday in Turkey because of the exchange rate. It's one on one. Does that then impact on the property prices going possibly skyrocketing through the roof? Can we South Africans buy property there at an affordable price for whatever reason, residency or citizenship or whatever? I've also been told that you could invest in Turkey, buy property and rent it out so that you get an income as far away as from Turkey without being a citizen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the one great thing about the Turkish government as compared to the Arab countries. They invite people to come and invest, and property has skyrocketed. Prices have skyrocketed in the past 2, 3 years, especially in Istanbul. But there's still very affordable property in Istanbul as well as in other cities, like in the Mediterranean cities and towns that we visited. There's lots of affordable property. It's the prices are very similar to our prices.
Ah,
And yes, you can buy a property. And in fact, if you buy a property for 75,000 US dollars, which is about 1.2, 1.3 million rands currently, you can apply for permanent residency in the country, not citizenship, but permanent residency. And if you buy a property for 400,000 dollars US dollars, you can apply for citizenship. So Turkey is really making it very easy. They really are, inviting people to come and live in the country. In fact, I met a top-notch government official who was just encouraging me. Most of the conversation was him encouraging me, come invest in Turkey and come and live in Turkey. But that's my intention, anyways. I want to expand my business into the
Inshallah.
Middle East and Europe. So Turkey is the ideal base for us. Yeah, so definitely, I would say anybody that wants to
Oh,
invest.
okay. So is that what your webinar is going to focus on tomorrow?
Yeah,
Opportunities and being a great place to go and invest in and live in.
absolutely. I'm going to touch on a number of things. Though. One is the cultural aspect because us as Muslims, we are a minority in a westernized country. It's always refreshing to go to a country like Turkey where we are the majority, and not just that, but it's rich in Muslim history. So
We've just lost Bilal Kathrada there, and what a pity, or how ironical. Can you hear me, Bilal?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, I can. Can we wrap up, please? My next guest is on standby, and I
Okay,
certainly
sure.
am going to get you back on air because there's so much more I want to hear about this amazing country and opportunities, and of course, IT Varsity. So, can we just quickly wrap up, please?
Yeah, sure. So, unfortunately, we didn't get much time, but tomorrow in the webinar, I'll be spending a lot of time. I think it's over 2 or 3 weeks. We're going to be spending an hour per week discussing my trip and the opportunities there. So, for those that are hungry for more, join me tomorrow at 11 o'clock on Facebook. Follow my page. It's Bilal Cat11. And yeah, log in.
Listen, we've got to
Anything else?
have
Any
another
questions?
conversation sometime soon. There's
Definitely.
lots more questions I need to put to you, which I haven't had time to cover, but wonderful talking to you. Go well, and salaam
Likewise.
alaikum to you.
Wa alaikum salam.
Okay, Mike Bolhuis is standing by to talk with us. It is 8:58 a.m. We'll be joining him in a minute or two about a very serious matter here in South Africa. So let's just take a quick ad break and we'll talk with Mike Bolhuis.